Ryan Dowling. There was a young guy named Gary Trudeau, who wrote these little comic strips in the Yale newspaper about the thing, and he turned out pretty good, that Gary Trudeau. But I convinced my boss to cover opening day for the Red Sox at Fenway Park. And he said, you can go, and you can take the train up to Boston, but you gotta come back at night because we got 900 high school games tomorrow that you gotta cover. So I got all dressed up, and I had my little Madras sport coat, and my khaki pants, and my little cordovan loafers, and I had my Olivetti Lettera 32 typewriter, which was the typewriter of choice for guys at that time. And I took the train up to Boston, and I got out South Station, and I got in a cab, and I said, take me to Fenway Park. And the guy said, why are you going to Fenway Park? And I said, I am a sports writer, and I am covering opening day for the Boston Red Sox. And he said, it's postponed. It's canceled. He said, they canceled it because it's too cold out. It was like 40 degrees, and not overcast, but I guess it had rained for 3 days in the field, and they had bad drainage. So I didn't know what to do. And I said, well, take me to Fenway Park anyway. So I go to Fenway Park, I talk my way into the clubhouse, and I'd never been in a big league clubhouse before, and there's still a few players there, but there's no names on the lockers or anything. I don't know who anybody is. And I said, well, where's the manager? And I said, well, he's around the corner. And the manager was a guy, Dick Williams. He was a tough guy, and I kind of knocked on his door, and he was in his underwear, and he said, come on in, and he was very nice to me. I asked him some real nervous questions, and we went back and forth, and so I got that, and I came out, and I saw Reggie Smith, who was going to make his debut for the Red Sox. I talked to him for a little bit. So I had Reggie Smith, and I said, well, now I'll go and write this great story, but where do I go to write it? And I looked up in the press box, and there was nobody in the press box. And I didn't know that they had a press room where people did their work, you know, some secret room where you could maybe get free Coca-Cola and all that. So I said, well, I got to find a place to do this. So I went outside of Fenway Park, and there was a place called the Pennant Grill. And it was an old bar, and there's still a bar there called the Cask and Flagon, but this is the Pennant Grill, and it was old time, and I went in, and there were maybe 3 guys watching an old Hawaii 5-0 on a black and white television, and I said, you know, can I have a beer and go over to a booth and write this story for a newspaper? And the guy said, sure. So I went over with the beer and I started typing, and I ripped up a few leads and everything, and I needed another beer, so I got another beer. And I wrote some more, and somewhere I might have had another beer, and I had another beer, and then I phoned it in, and I had another beer. And so I'd had like 7 or 8 beers. I was feeling pretty good. But I had a lot of time left. It was 8 o'clock, it was my train, and it was only 2 o'clock now, and I said, well, what am I going to do? Well, the sports editor at the Boston Globe, Ernie Roberts, he had called me up once and sounded me out about maybe going to work in Boston. And I said, you know, because I'd had 7 or 8 beers, I'm going to call this son of a bitch up. So I called him up, and he said, you're in Boston, come on over. He said, I want to show you around. So I got in the cab, and I went over, and I had this buzz on, still going. And, you know, hey, Ernie, how are you? You know, and everything. And I'm a kind of quiet guy, but he showed me around, and he said, I want you to meet the editor of the paper. And the editor of the paper was an old Yankee guy, Tom Winship. And he wore the suspenders, and he had the bow tie, and he went to Harvard. His father had been the editor of the Globe, and he, you know, everyone was kind of really impressed. And I would have been tongue-tied, except I had the 7 or 8 beers. We go in and we see Tom Winship, and we said, and instead of being tongue-tied, I go, Tom, nice to meet you. And he said, you know, here's how the future of sports writing is going to be. He says, I think it's going to be in participant sports. He said, spectator sports are not going to do anything. It's going to be participant sports. And to my mind, this sounds like a crazy idea, you know. And I said, "Oh, participant sports, you're exactly right." And he said, "Are you big in participant sports?" And I said, "Certainly." And he said, "Do you ever ski?" I said, "I go skiing all the time. I've never gone skiing in my life." And I was a silly kid, and he said, "You play golf?" And I said, "I love to play golf. And tennis, I play tennis all the time. Boating, motor, sailboats or powerboats, I know them all." And we went through it, and that was the whole thing, I would never do that if I didn't have the 7 or 8 years. So we get done, and I go off with Ernie Roberts, and he says, we'll talk to you. And I went back, and I got on the train, and I was right about Providence, Rhode Island, where the buzz was gone. And I said, "Oh my God, you ruined your whole journalistic career by doing this one day." But long story short, 8 months later, they called me, and that was the only interview I ever had with the Boston Globe. And they called me up and they gave me a job, and they opened the door to this great life of, going around and talking to interesting people and writing stories and going around the world really for Sports Illustrated, and it's just been a great, great thing. It is a great, great thing. And I just thank you all for this award. It's a great thing. Thank you very much.